have decided to make this an African Attire Day, I want to acknowledge the support that you give KEWOPA. Madam Speaker, we know that there are so many designers, small designers, sometimes even called tailors, in our small rural homes, who struggle to make ends meet through making clothes for members of parliament and for other people, sometimes even school children, but they go unrecognized. Madam Speaker, what we are doing today as KEWOPA is standing up for these women and telling them that we acknowledge their efforts, we appreciate their efforts, and telling them that in the highest law-making institution of the land, we are proud to wear the designs that they make. Madam Speaker, when you look at the women this afternoon, they look smart. And the clothes they're wearing today have come from nobody else but the local designers. Madam Speaker, I, for one, what I'm wearing today is by a designer known as Jackie Obiero of Baltoni Fashions. This is a lady who has been a designer for over 20 years and has probably never been applauded for her efforts. But today I sit or I stand in parliament wearing her attire and feeling really smart. Madam Speaker, you don't need to tell me that you think I'm smart, but I can see it in your eyes that you really think I'm smart. Madam Speaker, I want to go to the motion of the day. And right from the onset, I'd like to say that I oppose the amendment of the Constitution and standing orders. Madam Speaker, we know that the work of the committees is actually to interrogate even the ministers on behalf of the other members of parliament and indeed on behalf of Kenyans. Madam Speaker, when we allow those ministers to actually come into parliament or onto the floor of the House, we are actually weakening those committees. And Madam Speaker, I remember the effort of BBI to actually make ministers be answerable to members of parliament was thwarted by no other than the current government. Madam Speaker, why are we therefore in a hurry to make this about turn, to make ministers come to parliament to answer questions? What is it that has just happened? Madam Speaker, I would also like to say that we have to make up our minds whether we want to go into presidential or parliamentary system. And if it's a presidential system, we must respect the rules of that system. Madam Speaker, for that reason, I stand to oppose and oppose again the amendment to the Constitution and amendment to the standing orders. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity.
Honorable Opio Wandai Ugunja.
There is a tendency which is creeping into this house, which is very dangerous. The Constitution and the standing orders are very clear. Yeah, the precedence in this house starts with the Speaker, Leader of Majority, Leader of Minority. So in that order, that has to be followed. Otherwise, you will cause chaos in this house. Madam Speaker,
Honorable Pio Andai,
that notwithstanding,
you cannot cast aspersions on the Speaker. You have already been given precedence. You are not the next one. So please take your time and address the motion.
I'm saying this for record. Yes. Let me contribute to this motion. And I will start by saying that all that I've said before concerning this matter stands. And for avoidance of doubt, I don't think it was even necessary for a communique or a communication of the sort that we are dealing with in this motion to come to this House in the manner it did. The House had already, on its own motion, commenced work on specifically the issue of NGCDF and those other funds. So there was no further need for any prompting. And my position on NGCDF and those other funds, including GAF, has been very clear. that indeed we need to entrench those funds in the Constitution. And that is the position of my coalition. Because of the clear benefits that have accrued from those funds to our people everywhere in the country. Coming to the issue of the creation of the position of leader of opposition, I still maintain and hold the view that the approach we are taking is not proper. Is not proper. My position has been that if indeed we think the time is ripe for reviewing the Constitution, which I strongly believe it is, then we must take a holistic view of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Because it's now more than 12 years since its promulgation in 2010. It's indeed ripe for review. But we can't do it through cherry picking, through patchwork. That will not be proper. I have also asked many times, and I've gotten no answers, as to what is it that we want to achieve by creating this position of leader of official opposition, whilst retaining intact the structure that we have currently, which is purely presidential. What, for instance, will be the role of the leader of official opposition vis-a-vis the role of the leader of minority party, for instance? Nobody is giving me any answers. I said, and I still want to repeat, that we must choose what we want to do. Agree to abolish this presidential system and go parliamentary route, or retain this presidential system with all its attributes without attempting to create a mongrel in the name of amendment to the Constitution. We cannot, as Kenyans, continue to appear as if we don't know what we want, and yet we really know what we want. The third issue is the matter of amending the standing orders of the National Assembly to allow cabinet secretaries to come before the full House and answer questions from honorable members of parliament. Again, I've said this time and again, that you cannot do that by merely amending the standing orders. That would go to the core of Article 255 of the Constitution. Because any time you bring an extra person who is not contemplated under the Constitution to be in this House, under whatever guise, you are interfering with the functions of Parliament. And therefore, you are compelled under Article 255 of the Constitution to undertake an amendment through a referendum. There are no two ways about it. No two ways about it. And it's not rocket science. Any plain reading of the Constitution will tell you that we have got no two ways about it. So what is this rush then? To try and bring cabinet secretaries to the House through the back door? What is it that is not working now that you want to cure? We have been in this House under this Constitution for the last 10 years now. What is it that is not working with our committee system that you want to cure through this backdoor changes. What is it? Nobody has told me. Nobody. And there's no this is not politics. We know where to play politics. We know very well. This is not politics. And I want those members who are here to listen to me very keenly. Because if we go this route, you will come to regret. We cannot open up this house to strangers really, in parliamentary parlance, to strangers. Because even when the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury comes to read the budget speech, he does so under very clear terms and arrangements. But to allow every other Cabinet Secretary to be thronging into this house every other day, purporting to answer questions directly from members.
What's your point of order, Honorable Owen Bai?
I wish you would allow me to continue. You know.
Just 1 minute. Read, Honorable Speaker, Article 125.
Honorable Opio and I, you have been here long. Please take your seat.
You know, I am getting amazed.
Article 125 of the Constitution says, either House of Parliament and any of its committees has powers to summon any person to appear before it for the purpose of giving evidence or providing information. Parliament has powers to summon any member to do that, either in committee or as Parliament. Thank you.
Continue, Honorable Opio.
Let me continue. And obviously ignore him. Because if that were the case, then why are you amending the standing orders? If it was clear that you can summon them, and you are summoning them even currently under the standing orders, this is not summoning. This is something else. But Madam Speaker, let me say this. On a matter such as this, you need to be very, very sober-minded. Because if you go this route, that you think this is a directive from Suji, whatever party, then you will come to regret. We, under the current constitutional arrangement, there is no room for a cabinet secretary to come to the house. There's no room. There's no room. And if you want to get that room, amend the Constitution. And for you to amend it, you have to go back to Article 255. Because it goes to the core. It touches on the functions of Parliament. You have got no leeway to pass it through this house, even if you have 2/3 majority. You must go to back to the people. That is the plain truth. That's the plain truth. So, our position, my position as a member of Parliament for Ugunja, the position of my party, the Orange Democratic Movement, the position of my coalition, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, and indeed the position of, I believe, majority of Kenyans, is that this route is dangerous. And we must shun it. So I call upon those like-minded members to join me in rejecting these proposals for the good of posterity. For the good of posterity. If you want cabinet secretaries to be in this house, say so. Let's amend the Constitution. Let those cabinet secretaries be appointed from amongst you. You, members of Parliament. I will be happy, even if I'm on the back bench, to be engaging with cabinet secretaries in the House as my colleagues. I'll be very happy. But to meander, to go around, to gerrymander, no, no, we are not part of that gerrymandering. We refuse that invitation. We refuse it totally, totally. And therefore, I want to caution the relevant House committee that is dealing with those amendments, that those amendments, those proposed amendments, the standing orders, are dead on arrival. And that if they come here, we should mobilize ourselves and reject them in toto, because they are unconstitutional ab initio, Madam Speaker. No amount of patchwork can cure that mischief, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me conclude by saying that this House should be left alone to run its affairs. We don't want any interference from whatever quarter. Let this House run its affairs. And let this House maintain its independence. We may differ politically out there, which we should anyway. But when we come here, let's safeguard the credibility, the integrity, the independence of this House, and protect our Constitution. You know, we have said time and again that indeed there are defaults. Any constitution cannot be perfect. Even the American Constitution was amended. In fact, it was amended much earlier than ours. I'm sure Honorable Buyu can recall the first amendment of the American Constitution, because we happen to have had some sojourn in that land. I don't know what we are doing there. I don't know. You have to tell me. So, Madam Speaker, so this is such a time that calls for bipartisan approach. Let me conclude. Madam Speaker, if you add me some 2 minutes to say something.
1 minute, please summarize.
Just true. Madam Speaker, as we do this, we must also reflect on where we're coming from as a country. In the recent past, we have had to contend with very, very, very unfortunate episodes. There is the recent remark by the Honorable Gachagua. You know, some of these remarks, some of those outbursts have got the effect of eroding the principle of the spirit of constitutionalism in this country. Madam Speaker, I was just looking at Article 27 of the Constitution. Honorable TJ, you can help me. Article 27, sub-article 4. And I may read it for avoidance of doubt. The state shall not discriminate directly or indirectly against any person on any ground, including, among others, conscience, belief, age, color, origin, and so on and so forth. So if you come out in the open and proclaim that the state is now going to adopt an official policy to discriminate against persons or regions in this country on the basis of how they voted, then what are you calling for? What are you inviting? You are asking Kenyans to start nursing other thoughts. That if I don't subscribe to a political thought, if I am not a shareholder in your so-called company, then I must look for ways of fending for myself, including refusing to obey rules, to obey laws, and to pay tax. Then you will be calling for the rule of the jungle. You will be calling for the state of anarchy in the country.